This is Molly. Welcome to Purpose, where we are just trudging right along through the Bible, reading the stories, and trying to figure out how they relate to our own lives so that we can learn how to love God more and more and grow closer to Him. Because that is our only purpose for being on this planet, to love God more and more and build up a relationship with Him and to love each other. That's it. That's our whole purpose for being here. And half the time we don't even think about that. So we left off on Genesis chapter 29, verse 15. So as you recall, Isaac and Rebekah had two boys, Esau and Jacob. They didn't get along very well. And, excuse me, I have a cold. Jacob stole the inheritance from Esau, tricked his dad into giving him the inheritance, because the firstborn son was always the one that got the inheritance. They used that money to take care of the mom and the other kids. And Jacob tricked Isaac into giving him, the younger son, the inheritance. Well, Esau was spitting mad. He was going to kill Jacob. Rebekah was scared. She sent Jacob to her brother Laban and told him to stay there until things calmed down with Esau. So that's what Jacob did. And we left off with Jacob getting there to Uncle Laban's house. He saw his youngest daughter, Rachel, and it was love at first sight. Jacob fell head over heels in love with Rachel. So Laban welcomed him into his house. And Laban, we find out later on, is kind of a greedy guy, and he's kind of lazy, and he's very happy to have Jacob come there and help him do some work around the place. But he's acted kind of like a big shot, and he's saying, oh, I can't have you work for me for free. You just tell me what you want paid. And Jacob said, I love your daughter Rachel. I'll work for you for 7 years, and then I want to be able to marry Rachel. And 7 in the Bible is a symbol for completion or covenant or pact. So Jacob's making a covenant. He's making a deal with Laban that he'll work 7 years and then he'll get to marry Rachel. And Laban said, you got it, buddy. Come and work for me for 7 years and then you can marry Rachel. And that's what happened. And Jacob said that time just flew right by because he was in love. And you know, during those 7 years that they had kind of a courtship, you know, Jacob and Rachel, they were getting to know each other, love each other. And Jacob was very excited to make her his wife. Well, after the 7 years, Jacob went to Laban and said, look, my 7 years are up. I want my wife. And in those days and time, there wasn't a big celebration at the church where all the family came. You had a party, and then you had relations with each other. And that's how you consummated the wedding. You went to bed, had relations. When you woke up, you're man and wife. So Laban got all the men together, all the servants and the family, and they had a big party. I'm sure they had tons of food. And I'm going to guess there was a little bit of alcohol involved in this party. Because Jacob went to bed that night. And remember, it's dark, 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 dark back then when the sun goes down. There's no electricity. You know, here, even at nighttime with no lights on, it's not completely dark. There's lights from neighboring towns, even if you live out in the country. Cars going by, outdoor lights. There was none of that there. The only light you got was what you had from a candle or a lantern. So Jacob went to bed. It's dark. His new honey comes in, his bride. She lies down with him. They have relations. They're married now. No going back on it. Well, Jacob wakes up in the morning. Sun's up. Surprise, surprise. It's not Rachel. It's her older sister, Leah. Now, in the Bible, it says that Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful and lovely. Maybe Rachel's eyes really were weak, You know, you didn't get glasses back then. There was no ophthalmologist nearby. So maybe she really did have poor eyesight. But I think it was followed with Rachel was beautiful and lovely. I think what they're saying here was Leah wasn't a real looker. She wasn't beautiful like Rachel was. And so Jacob has been tricked. Jacob just got Jacobed. He tried to steal, well, he did. He stole Esau's inheritance from him that was supposed to go to the firstborn son. And now he was trying to steal Rachel because she's the younger daughter. And that doesn't happen. The oldest one gets married first. In fact, Jacob, as soon as he saw poor Leah laying there, he jumped out of bed and he ran to Laban. What the heck, Laban? Why are you tricking me like this? And Laban said, it is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. So he's telling him, you might have got away with those shenanigans back home, but it's not happening here, buddy. You're going to marry the oldest daughter first, then you can have the younger one. So Laban, he must have had this all planned out. He had 7 years to think of it. He told Jacob, look, you work for me another 7 years. Complete your week with Leah. So they must have had like a honeymoon where they were together and they kept having relations. After your week with Leah, excuse me, while you're working your 7 years again, your additional 7 years, I'll give you Rachel. You just stay with Leah for a week and then you can have Rachel. And she can be your wife. I'm guessing Laban was hoping that Leah got pregnant in there because that would bind her relationship to Jacob even more solid. So Jacob agreed to it. He stayed with Leah for 1 week and then he got Rachel as his wife. And it did happen during that week that Rachel got pregnant and she had a son. And we're going to talk about that more next time. But for right now, let's talk a little bit about this old trickery going on here and the switcheroonies that have been happening between Jacob and Esau and Leah and Rachel. I don't know what this means. Nobody really does. You know, you have your best guess. But I think one of the things God's trying to show us here is there are consequences for our actions. God will forgive every sin. The only sin that cannot be forgiven is the one we didn't repent, the one we didn't say we were sorry for and go to God on our hands and knees and beg for his forgiveness. That's the only sin that can't be forgiven. All sins can be forgiven by God, no matter how horrible they are. But there's consequences. Every time I mess up, every time I lie, every time I talk bad about somebody, I gossip with somebody, I cuss somebody out in traffic, or, you know, whatever it is I'm doing, God will forgive that when I say, oh, I messed up again, God, I'm so sorry. He'll forgive me. But there's still consequences. I have to answer for what I did. And when I get up there and I'm standing in front of God, eyeball to eyeball, I've got to answer for everything I've done. And, excuse me, I think this is what Jacob is finding out. That it's not quite as easy as he thought. You can't trick God. You can't fool Mother Nature, and you can't trick God. He knows everything that we do. He knows what's in our heart, good and bad. And there's no fooling him. And there are consequences for every trickeroony that we do in our life. You know, we think we're getting away with stuff, but we're not. God sees it. God knows it. And all we can do is go to him and say, I did it again, God. I'm so sorry. Please touch my heart. Help me. Help me to love you the way you deserve. Help me to love other people. Show me how I can live a life that you want me to live. And he'll help us. He'll help us every time. But there's going to be consequences for what we've done. And we've got to humbly accept that, you know. We can't get all defiant. Well, they had every right. They had it coming. No, we have to humbly admit that we messed up. That somewhere along the line we didn't trust God. Jacob didn't, and Rebekah didn't trust God to let Esau get the inheritance. Jacob was not trusting that if he married the firstborn, Leah, it would be all right. God would be with him. And there's consequences, for everything that we do. I hope that makes sense. It did in my head. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to see what's happening with Jacob and Leah and Rachel. Can't be easy. You've got two sisters married to one man. There's going to be some competition there. There's going to be some jealousy. There's got to be. That's just, life. I couldn't be married to my sister's husband, to me and my sister married to the same man. That couldn't happen. We don't share well. We as in people don't share well. My sister and I do just fine. But anyway, I'm getting off the track here. I hope that today you think about in your life the times that you've messed up and you apologize to God. Go to him with it. And then know what your triggers are. We all have little sin triggers. We all have things that as soon as this happens, my dander's going to get up and I am pretty likely to sin. Or as soon as I'm with this person, I'm going to start gossiping or I'm going to start trashing people. Or as soon as I get into this traffic, I'm going to start yelling at people. We have to know what our triggers are so that when we know they're coming, we can go straight to God and ask him to help us. Don't try to handle it on your own. It's too hard. Go to God, ask him for help, and he'll help us. Well, I hope you all have just the best week, and I pray that you grow closer and closer to God. And when we meet next time, we'll find out what's happening with those rascally newlyweds. Bye-bye, everyone.